I would like to introduce another Carey School alumni, Freda Cenarrusa, and her Panther Points of Pride video.
Hi, I'm Freda Coates Cenarrusa, and I graduated from Carey High School in 1946. Chuck and Omagay Coates. And first that I remember, we lived up Fish Creek, just about a mile from the first Fish Creek Bridge down by the river, and in a three-roomed house. And there were lambing sheds there because we had sheep, and we lambed the sheep there in the wintertime. I can't remember when we got the first car, but everywhere we went was by sleigh or by horse. But I do have a picture somewhere of the first Ford Model T. It had a bed on the back. Okay, my brothers, my sister, and I lived there. Then when I was 12, we moved further up Fish Creek beyond the dam, above the Hutton place. And I was there until I was 16, I guess. And my dad bought the old Coates Hotel. Well, it wasn't the Coates Hotel then, it was the Briggs Hotel, right next to the post office. There's no post office there now. And yeah, she cooked breakfast for the few strangers that came through Carey on their way to Arco or Idaho Falls, you know. And then in the wintertime, it was all old sheep herders that came to town and needed a place to live in the wintertime while they were lambing their sheep. Smoky Bill, he was a character. Anyway, a lot of them, you know, and they loved her because she was so good to everybody. She was everybody's grandma in town. Little girls would come from school and they'd stop at Aunt Omy's because she'd make cookies for them. Well, I've heard some of your interviewees saying they didn't really have any fun that they could remember, but I had a lot of fun. Mildred and I and Merlene and Freda had a lot of fun. We were pretty wild, I guess, you know. Well, like I said, I had that pickup. At 14, I was driving everywhere. And on weekends, we'd throw food in it and go up Fish Creek or up Wood River and go swimming and picnic. Yeah, Mary Jane Evans, she was really great. Mrs. Billingsley was fun. She had as much fun as the kids did. And Irvin Spencer, he's the one that, he was the principal when I was a senior. And I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with myself. And we didn't have any money. Nobody had any money then. And I wanted to be an airline stewardess. But in those days, you had to have 2 years of college or the equivalent in business. And I had no college and no money to go to college, but he convinced my mother and dad to let me go to Albion, the teacher's college. I didn't want to be a teacher, but I could at least get 2 years of school there. And they agreed to let me take just a general course. I didn't have to be preparing for a teacher. So Mildred and I went down there, and we had a lot of fun there too. Everybody had fun around Mildred. And so I went there for the spring semester of 47. Came home and learned how to fly. Married my instructor, Pete Cenarrusa. Mildred, Freda, Merlene, we had fun together. We ran around.
And you're jalopy.
Yeah, and then, of course, when the war started and my brothers went to the service, Burl had just bought a nice Pontiac, I think it was. So he let me drive it while he was gone. Boy, was I popular. Because I was the only kid that had a car. I wanted to be an airline stewardess. But I ended up getting married and having a baby and got into politics when my husband ran for the legislature.
So what was that like?
Horrible. It was awful because I was a hick from the sticks, and I still am. And I said, you know, you're not going to do that. I'm not. Politics back then, to me, at that age, was unheard of. But he ran, and of course, we couldn't afford for me to come down here during the session, and not very many women did come with their husbands. Besides, I had to stay home and cook for the lambing crew. So I cooked for the lambing crew while Pete was down here in the legislature for the first 3 years. I never came, and then I came, let's see, when Joe was in the 5th grade the first time, and spent the winter here. And after that, I came every winter with him. But back in those days, you didn't have money, you didn't spend money. He was in the legislature for 17 years and then was appointed Secretary of State. And was there forever. Till 2003. Yeah, well, from high school to college for 2 semesters, marriage, lived in Carey. Got into the sheep business. My dad was a sheep man, his dad was a sheep man. So I was a sheep herder's wife, still am. Then when we didn't move down here until he became Secretary of State, because in those days you had to live here if you were a statewide elected official. We came to this house, and I've been here ever since. Well, we had Joe, who died in 1997 in an airplane crash. Ended our lives. It changed our lives a lot. Pete was getting ready to retire at that time because Joe wanted him to retire and go golf with him when he golfed. Joe had ended up back here from his experiences in the restaurant business. Well, he came back to Idaho and ran the sheep business for us for a few years, and then got into the restaurant business. Bought a restaurant in Bend, Oregon, a famous old Pine Tavern restaurant, and then came back here and bought the Red Robin, and then opened up another one called the Biscay Bay, after the Basque Country where Pete's family was from. And that was a little higher end restaurant than, you know, it was a family dining, which turned out not to be successful because at the same time they were doing urban renewal downtown and all of the roads were closed and nobody could get there. You know? So he closed that and opened up Joe's All-American and turned it into one more like a Red Robin. And that was very successful. And then he built another Red Robin here in Boise, built one in Reno, and flying was his thing from the time, well, he learned to fly in the little Super Cub that I wasn't afraid of, so I flew that too, but not by myself. And he died in an airplane, flying too low, and hit a power line going across the road that he didn't see. Anyway, he died like we always said, he died doing what he loved. He loved to fly the sawtooths.
Sure.
And we were just talking about it this morning, and how beautiful those sawtooths are. Yeah. And Pete was ready to retire at that time in 97. He wasn't going to run again in 98. And we all put our heads together and said, no, you can't retire yet. At that point, he needed something to do. So he ran one more time and then retired. You can thank God if you have a good family. I couldn't have made it without my grandkids and my daughter-in-law. And I thought I suffered, but then I'd think back, my God, how she must have suffered. You know, and we're still very close, very close. And I've got 3 great grandkids, and we have a really good family, and I think a good family is what will get you through anything. And at that time, when Joe passed, I was quite involved in politics. And I was secretary to the State Central Committee and traveled quite a bit with Pete, you know, and politics. And I volunteered at the Ada County office here full-time. And but after that, I quit volunteering, and I wanted to be sure that I was here when Pete came home at night. So, family, go to Curves every morning and work out. Right, Karen?
Yes.
I went this morning. And I have so many good friends that they don't let me sit still very often, very long. I'm still, some of my best friends here are Basque ladies, and for a long time I was involved a lot with the Basques because Pete was. We made several trips to the Basque country and got to know a lot of people, and of course he was over there, he was God because he carried their problems over here, you know, and did a lot for them. So some of my best friends here are Basque ladies. We get together a lot. One takes me to church on Saturday night, and one takes me shopping every week, whether I need to go or not. I have a group of political lady friends that we call ourselves the Sims Lunch Bunch because I got started on the Sims campaign, Steve Sims campaign, when he ran for the Senate against Frank Church. So most of them either worked for Sims or McClure or Larry Craig. They all worked on campaigns. And so we get together once a month. So I'm busy enough. No. Erwin Spencer convinced me that I was smart. Tori Merlene beat me by 1 point. So she was the valedictorian, I was the salutatorian. And I had no idea except I wanted to be an airline stewardess. But then when I found out I had to have some college, I was stumped because we didn't have a lot of money. And Erwin said, you can afford it. And he talked to my mom and dad, and yeah, they could afford it. So if I hadn't got married, I might have been an airline stewardess. I'm Freda Cenarrusa, and I graduated from Carey School. I urge everyone to go to college or a trade school. Don't run up a debt going to college if you're not meant to be there. Okay?